Week 5. Holy Jesus effing Christ. Insane day in the NFL yesterday. Absolutely insane. Tough week for favorites. You know, that's been the vibe over the last 2 years, really since the start of last year, is chalk, chalk, chalk. The favorites have been winning at an obscene rate. Um, Three dogs of a touchdown plus won yesterday. Titans over Cardinals, Niners over Rams. That was Thursday night. And then late last night, the Pats over the Bills, which that really was the bigger surprise. I mean, I know Titans over Cardinals knocked a lot of people out of Survivor. The way that game went down in the second half with DeMercado fumbling and then the crazy interception touchdown, which I'll be honest, I might never see another play like that in the history of the NFL. Um, that that was obviously an insane ending, but I think in terms of pedigree, we view the Bills right now as probably the best team in the NFL. Don't expect them. I don't view that about the Cardinals for sure. Um, so didn't expect what the Patriots did last night, but you have to give them a ton of credit. I think my take on this. So the reason why I think favorites have been winning at such a high rate over the last year plus is the death of ugly dogs. What do I mean by that? So for those of you that have been sharp gamblers or, listening to people who are sharp bettors, professional bettors in the NFL circles, they will always tell you, A, they prefer dogs and they love ugly dogs because that's the underdog that nobody wants to bet on. And typically that's when you get the most value. For those listening on the audio only version of this, I'm doing air quotes there. When I say value, I mean usually when teams don't get bet on, A, that's when, you get the most favorable number. The problem with that is when you're betting on these ugly dogs, you're betting on horrible quarterbacks. You're betting on Cam Ward. You're betting on Justin Fields. You're betting on, just Jackson Dart. These guys that are not considered good quarterbacks in the NFL. Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel with the Browns. And those guys, those quarterbacks, I think are getting worse, relatively speaking, to the average quarterback in the NFL. I think there is a widening gap between good and bad teams in the NFL. Not like it was 5 years ago, where maybe that gap was a little bit tighter, and some of these ugly dogs had a better chance to win outright. That being said, obviously we had two of them win outright yesterday. I wouldn't consider the Patriots an ugly dog, not with Drake May. Drake May is absolutely one of the top 5, top 10 quarterbacks in the league right now in terms of the EPA. But I would say the Niners with Mac Jones at quarterback on a short week with everyone injured, and I would definitely say the Titans were definitely ugly dogs that won outright. So maybe the ugly dogs are starting to bark back a little bit in the NFL. I think a great example of this, when I talk about the bad teams getting worse, I think the Jets really are that example. And you're going to have to bear with me as I kind of run through some of the intricacies of running your own show when it comes to switching your own board. So I want to show you this tweet, and I'm going to do this a lot on the show. The vibe of the show is going to be me obviously talking, but I want to show you things that are important. And I have this fun way that I can kind of switch back and forth. If I can find the tweet from Ari Meirov here about the Jets being the only 0-5 team in the NFL. And exactly what the Jets are up against these days. So again, just bear with me as we work through some of the intricacies of the show. I thought I had this tweet pulled up, but I didn't. Here it is right here. All right, so let's go to the screen share now. I love this. Let me just turn this down because I know it's going to go back later. So Justin Fields 0-26 as a starter when the opponent scores 21 or more points. Again, that really is a wild stat, an absolutely wild stat. As we look at this I've got to figure out a way to get this this little Riverside. So I'm running this show on Riverside. I have to figure out a way to get this tab not to show up on Riverside, or else I can't show you these tweets going forward. So, because the whole point is to put me in the box there at the bottom right, but that obviously isn't working. So again, we have our first technical difficulty on the show. Isn't that fun? All right, I'll go back to me now, because let's be honest, that's why you're here on the show, right? Let me see if I can figure out a way to get this. I think if I move this, hold on, we're working things out here on the show. We're figuring it out on the fly. All right, now if I move this here, see, watch, this is the magic of TV, magic of live TV. Now we're going to move this here. Watch this. Look at that. Boom. And now you can see my beautiful face on the bottom right corner. Perfect. Okay, so there you go. Justin Fields 0-26 when the opponent scores 21 or more points. Just an insane statistic for the New York Jets, who, again, they're the only winless team in the NFL right now. We're waking up on a Week 5 morning with the only winless team in the NFL being the New York Jets. So I do something every week called the Fluke Report. What is the Fluke Report? So what I do is I compile stats from all the games, and I figure out a way to make it palatable to where I can figure out if teams are winning the games that they should be winning or if they're not. So if I go to my weekly matchups tabs, again, this is my NFL spreadsheet where I do like everything. And if you want to look at what my tabs are, I really don't care. Like, you can look at, I have my lifetime class schedules tab saved on there. I really don't care. So week 5 right here in the middle, the Fluke Report to me is a very helpful tool that allows me to say, okay, this team won, but they were outgained yards per play. They were outgained, they had a minus success rate. They won the turnover margin. It kind of helps me figure out if we should be upgrading or downgrading teams in the NFL. So here's the Fluke Report for week 5. Belt to ass game of the week. So that is the biggest plus net success rate of the week. I call it the belt to ass game of the week. It's basically the team that got their ass kicked the worst. And no surprise, at the top of the belt to ass game of the week standings this week is the Texans over the Ravens. Plus 20% net success rate for the Texans over the Ravens. Ravens have a real problem right now. Not sure how they really fix things, to be perfectly honest with you, but they have a real problem right now. And it's injuries, it's Lamar Jackson not being good, it's a whole lot of stuff. This is just coffee, by the way, so excuse me as I take a sip, because it's hard to just talk by yourself for a long period of time. That was the biggest, widest success rate margin of the week, of the season, 20%. So prior to that, it was the Lions over the Bears in week 3. That ass kicking was a plus 19%. Detroit over Chicago. Houston plus 20% over the Ravens. 60% success rate for the Texans yesterday. The Ravens had 40%. I think we really have to downgrade the Ravens significantly, especially until Lamar Jackson comes back, because this roster is in shambles. I mean, it's a bottom 5 roster, I think, without Lamar and with all these defensive injuries. And Houston, who had not looked good offensively, just absolutely shoved one right up the you-know-what yesterday for Baltimore. So that is the top of my Fluke Report. I always say, what's the biggest ass-kicking of the week? And was it really a true ass-kicking, or was it just, things snowballed? This was an ass-kicking. It was the worst ass-kicking of the season so far. All right, now let's get into the meat of the Fluke Report, right? I'm highlighting this in the middle. Teams that won success rate but lost the game. These are teams that I would be very hesitant to upgrade based on their win, right? The Rams, hesitant to downgrade based on their loss, right? You win success rate but lose the game. The Rams won success rate by plus 7% margin, lost to the 49ers. Seahawks were very good on offense yesterday, 58% success rate, lost to the Bucs. Jets and Bills slightly won success rate, lost the football game. Again, those weren't as decisive because those teams also lost yards per play, right? And so that's the second level of the Fluke Report. Teams that won yards per play lost the game. There's the Rams, there's the Seahawks right at the top of the list. How about the Seahawks? 8.5 yards per play. Couldn't win a football game over the Tampa Bay Bucs. Just a really gritty performance by Tampa Bay. We'll get to Baker Mayfield a little bit later in one of the new segments that I cooked up here on the show. We do have some fun segments that I'll preview in a little bit. But Rams and Seahawks, right? Both on the success rate and the yards per play Fluke Report. That means I am not downgrading either of those teams this week. I just think those games could have gone either way. They were toss-ups. The Rams and the Seahawks, they won the stats but lost the game. When that happens, I'm not downgrading a team. And on the flip side of that, right, we're not upgrading San Francisco. We're not upgrading Tampa Bay based on their wins because they lost the stats, probably should have lost the game. Cardinals and Eagles also on the 1 yards per play but lost the game category. I'm not necessarily as enthused about the Eagles-Broncos game. I think that one frankly, I was on the right side of that one. I bet the Broncos, but I thought the Eagles really, in the first half, that was the best their offenses looked all year. They were taking deep shots. They were running it a little bit better. And then I don't know what happened in the second half. You give Sean Payton a lot of credit, made a lot of good adjustments, but the Broncos really made a nice comeback there. And in the Cardinals-Titans game, I mean, that's the weirdest game of the year so far. I went 4-1 in my Circa picks and my Splash Sports picks. I usually do both. I do both the same because it's just I'm not one of those people that is gonna go pick 5 sides in my Splash contest and then reverse it in the Circa. Like my 5 contest picks for the week, I try to keep it consistent amongst. I'm in 2 contests this year, right? I'm in Circa Millions. I'm in Splash Sports, which I'm hosting a pool for them, and it's the same, pretty much the same lines every week. Maybe they're off by half a point. So I usually just, if I like one, I'll put all 5 picks in the same pool, or in both pools. So I went 4-1 yesterday in Circa and Splash. The only loss was the Cardinals. I was absolutely certain when DeMercado ran that touchdown in, I was going 5-0. Certain. I was dancing around my house going 5-0, 5-0. And then I looked back at the TV and this Dumbo drops the ball. So I want to show you again another video here. And this is Jonathan Gannon going up to DeMercado after he fumbled it. I mean, just a bone. Look at him. He almost hit him. He did hit him. I mean, he was pissed, and rightfully so. Now, I credit the offensive linemen there. It looks like that are kind of consoling him, but oh man, I just don't understand. Let's go back to me here. I don't understand how you continue to do this. This is, and maybe it's what's the Chad Powers, or I forget the Powers guy, the TV show that he gets run out of the league because he drops the ball before the goal line, or I forget the premise of the show, but that was how it's being marketed on TV. We have seen this now multiple times this season. It happened last week with Adonai Mitchell of the Colts. This is the dumbest thing you could possibly do as a football player. And I coach 12-year-olds. If they did this, they'd be on the bench. They might not get a carry the rest of the game. I do not understand how, in your mind, when you are running across the goal line, you drop the ball before the goal. Like, it is the most basic. I get sometimes some of the boneheaded penalties that these guys make in the heat of the moment when they are, especially defensively, right? Because as a defender, it's just, I'm trying to kill someone. Like, I am heat-seeking missile. And sometimes you get a little too over-aggressive, right? The holding penalties, the personal fouls, you get a little too heated, and you make a stupid mistake. It's stupid, but at least you can kind of justify, I lost my head for a minute. When you are running with the football, your singular focus should be getting not only into the end zone, through the end zone. That's how I would coach it. You are running through the end zone. Run through the back of the pylon, into the stands, and then jump in the crowd, drop the ball, run to the sidelines, do whatever you want to do. But we are continuously seeing, and I don't know if it's a coaching thing, I don't know if these guys are just getting dumber, but we are continuously seeing players drop the ball before they get into where they need to be, which is the end zone. Truly remarkable. I just don't understand it. So Cardinals, again, they win yards per play over the Titans. And the funny thing is, Arizona up 9 late in the game. Cam Ward on third down with like 4 minutes left throws a pick, and then the DeMercado play was crazy enough, and then the crazy interception fumble into the end zone. I think it was Tyler Lockett who recovered it in the end zone for a touchdown. That is one of the and then of course the Cardinals go 3 and out on the next drive, and you know what happens next. Tennessee kicks the field goal to win the game. Insane. If you were in Survivor and you lost on the Cardinals, I have no words. This is why I don't do big money Survivor pools anymore. I tweeted that last night. Survivor's fun. It's a lotto ticket, $20, $50, maybe 100 max, for a Survivor pool for the season is what I would maybe consider. But there are people out there that drop 10 grand and do 10 entries in Circus Survivor. I just don't get it. It is a very expensive lottery ticket. There are so many better contests out there where you are locked in for the whole season. You can win quarterly prizes. Again, for a professional gambler, you do what you do with your money. For someone who's like an average Joe like me, who just doesn't have a giant budget, dropping 1,000 even for one circuit entry in Survivor is crazy to me. I don't understand people who do it as like a job. It is a lottery ticket. There is no skill involved in Circa. I'm sorry, in Survivor, it's not. It's a complete lottery ticket because of the one and done nature of it. It's a fun lottery ticket. I'm not taking anything away from the gamble aspect of it. But if you're strapped for cash and you're trying to figure out where do I want to allocate my contest money in August, I think there's better options for the average Joe out there than Circa Survivor. Teams that won turnover margin but lost the game, Dolphins and Browns. Again, I didn't think the Dolphins played that well yesterday. I think if I go to their yards per play, so again, see here, I do all the yards per play, I do all the success rates, turnovers, penalties, sacks, red zones, third downs. Let's go to Miami here and highlight it. Miami got their butts kicked in yards per play, lost success rate. Again, Carolina turned it over twice because Bryce Young, I think it was in the first quarter, both turnovers on like the first 5 plays of the game, lost his head. But then Miami just kind of folded down the stretch. They're just not a team that I would take very seriously right now. Browns +2 over the Vikings. That was a weird game in London. I lost the Dylan Gabriel yards under prop on that last pass, that meaningless last pass where they had the Hail Mary. They missed the Hail Mary. They called timeout, and then they ran it again, and they ran a random pass that just didn't even get close to the end zone. So tough beat on anyone who had the Dylan Gabriel under in passing yards. But Browns did win the turnover margin, but lost the game. So there's your fluke report. Again, the teams that I wouldn't upgrade who won, Niners and Bucks. I just think those games were super fluky. I would not upgrade either team, and vice versa. Teams that lost that I wouldn't downgrade, Rams and Seahawks. So that was kind of your day in the NFL. Not a great day for favorites. Weird day with the Titans winning. I mean, they're now 4-18 straight up under Brian Callahan. Good for them. I'm definitely fading them next week. I don't even care who they play. You've got to fade Tennessee next week after that win. And just a wild, wild evening, too. Good for Drake May. Good for Drake May. Good for the Patriots. I thought that was a different result than I expected. I thought there were going to be more points in that game. The first half was super sleepy, and then things kind of woke up in the second half. But really good performance there by Drake May, who outplayed Josh Allen, who was the MVP favorite coming into the game.